I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name's Mike, and for years I believed I had a pretty solid marriage with Lisa. We met in college, got married right after graduation, and honestly I thought we were happy. Sure, there were the usual ups and downs, but overall I thought we had something real. I was working a good job, and Lisa was the kind of wife who seemed supportive, at least, that's what I thought. But then last month everything started to change. It was a rough time for me. I lost my job unexpectedly. The company I worked for went through layoffs, and I was one of the unlucky ones. I was devastated. I'd poured so much into that career, and suddenly I was home, unemployed, feeling like a failure. I was trying to keep it together, but honestly I felt like I was drowning. Lisa, for her part, was there for me, or at least she said she was. She kept saying all the right things. She'd bring home food, cuddle up next to me, tell me everything would be okay. But I started noticing little things. She'd get home late from work more than usual. Sometimes she'd come back smelling of perfume I didn't recognize. She'd brush me off when I asked about her day, saying she was just busy. I ignored it, told myself I was just paranoid. I was vulnerable and maybe I was imagining things. Then came the money issues. I'd ask her about her credit card bills and she'd get defensive, say I was overthinking it, that she was just shopping for stuff we needed. But I'd find receipts for dinners or gifts delivered to someone's house, usually some guy's. I didn't want to believe it at first, but the signs kept piling up. I had this gnawing feeling that something was off, that maybe I was just too blind or maybe I didn't want to see the truth. One night I came home early from a job interview. I wanted to surprise her. The house was eerily quiet, and that's when I saw her. She was in the bedroom, sitting on the bed with her phone in hand, her legs crossed, and she was sending a message. I could see the screen. It was a chat, and I recognized the name James, my best friend. My stomach dropped. I looked closer and I saw her typing, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That's when everything snapped into place. The world around me seemed to tilt. I froze. My mind was racing. How long has this been going on? Did she really cheat on me with James, my best friend, the guy I've known for over 10 years? I didn't even knock. I just stood there watching her, feeling the cold sweat trickle down my back. She looked up, saw me, and her face twisted into this bitchy smirk. Like I was the idiot for catching her. She closed her phone quickly, scrambling to cover her tracks, but I'd already seen enough. That moment I knew everything I'd suspected was true. Lisa, my wife, had been lying to me for months. Not just lying, actively betraying me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All the trust I'd built with her over the years gone in a second. I wanted to scream, to shout, to ask her why. But I just stood there, unable to speak, overwhelmed by a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. She looked at me, her eyes cold and full of contempt. "It's not what you think," she said, voice sweet but dripping with sarcasm. "It's just sex, it doesn't mean anything." I almost laughed at how stupid she sounded. That was her excuse, that a few nights with James, my best friend, meant nothing. I wanted to ask her how many nights it had been, how many lies she'd told me. But I couldn't speak. I just clenched my fists and stormed out of the house, my mind racing, not knowing what I was going to do next. From that moment on, I knew my world had changed forever. I was hurt, furious, and somehow also numb. I didn't even realize how much I loved her until I saw her lying to my face, cheating on me with the one person I trusted most. That's when I realized I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I had to figure out what came next, but one thing was clear. My wife, Lisa, wasn't who I thought she was, and I'd be damned if I let her get away with it. After that night, everything felt different. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept replaying that moment over and over. I kept asking myself if I had missed the signs, if I was just blind to what was happening right under my nose. The betrayal hit hard, but what cut even deeper was the realization that someone I considered my best friend had been lying to me all along. James and Lisa, how the hell did I not see it coming? How did they manage to hide it so well? I knew I had to confront her again, face her with everything I now knew. The next day I came home early from whatever I was doing. Truth is, I couldn't stand being around anyone, especially not her. I found her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. She looked up when I walked in and her eyes immediately went cold. That bitchy smirk was still there, like she was proud of herself for what she'd done. I didn't waste any time. I told her I saw everything, that I knew about James, about the lies, about the cheating. Her reaction was a mix of defiance and anger. She told me I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid, that I didn't understand her. She threw out the classic lines. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything, and you're just insecure because of your job loss. Honestly, I was furious. How could she be so callous, so dismissive of what she'd done? She kept lying, saying she was there for me during the tough times, that I was being unreasonable, accusing her of something so serious. She said she loved me, that she'd never cheat, that I was just seeing things. It was like talking to a wall, nothing I said seemed to matter. She even tried to turn it around on me, claiming I was jealous of James, that I was imagining things because I was insecure. That was infuriating. How could she be so manipulative? The emotional toll started to hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched again and again. Part of me wanted to believe her, to forgive, to pretend it didn't happen. But deep down, I knew better. I felt betrayed, not just by her but by James too. I loved that guy. I trusted him. We'd gone through thick and thin, and now I find out he's been sneaking around behind my back. How did I miss all the signs? Was I really that clueless? I looked at her and I saw her bitchy smirk again. Like she enjoyed this, like she was winning. I started to feel a strange mix of sadness and rage. Sadness because I had lost what I thought was genuine love, and rage because she was so disrespectful, so dismissive of my feelings. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she lie to my face and pretend everything was fine? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. I kept thinking about everything I'd done for her, how I'd supported her through her career struggles, how I'd always tried to be there for her. And in return, she was out there fucking my best friend. It was like some cruel joke I was part of. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and honestly pretty stupid for not seeing it sooner. I decided I couldn't stay in that house. Not like this. I needed space, clarity, something to help me figure out what the hell I was going to do next. I packed a bag, told her I was leaving for a few days to clear my head. She just shrugged and continued scrolling on her phone, that bitchy smirk still on her face. That's when I realized how much I'd been taken for a fool. I was drowning in a sea of confusion and anger, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her get away with playing me like this. Not without a fight, anyway. I stayed at a friend's place that night, trying to get my head straight. The more I thought about everything, the more I realized I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. She had lied to me, cheated on me with my best friend, and then had the nerve to act like I was overreacting. No way I was going to let her get away with it that easily. I needed a plan, something to shake her up, to make her understand that I wasn't just some idiot who could be discarded after she played her game. The next morning, I sat down with my phone, trying to think clearly. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with a clear plan. I decided I'd record her, just in case she tried to deny everything or spin some ridiculous story. I also gathered all the evidence I could find, screenshots of the messages, receipts, even some of her social media activity that hinted she was hiding something. I wanted her to know I wasn't just reacting emotionally, I had proof. When I went back to the house later that day, I felt like I was walking into a trap. I was angry, but I also felt a strange sense of calm, like I was finally in control of the situation. She greeted me at the door, all fake sweetness and bitchy smirk. I could see she was trying to act like nothing had happened, like she still had some power over me. That made me even angrier. I sat her down in the living room, pulled out my phone, and started recording. I told her I knew everything and that I had proof. Her reaction was a mixture of defiance and amusement. "Oh, really? You think you've got me now?" she said, rolling her eyes. "You're so paranoid. You're just bitter because you lost your job. That's all this is." I cut her off, showing her the screenshots of her messages with James, the receipts I'd found. Her face paled, but she quickly recovered with that bitchy attitude. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," she said, trying to brush it off. "I was just talking to him. It means nothing. It's just sex." I couldn't believe her. How could she lie so effortlessly? I told her I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I had enough evidence to prove she'd been lying for months. My voice was steady, but inside I was boiling. I was sick of her bullshit, sick of feeling like a fool. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be manipulated or made to look like the crazy one. She looked at me, that bitchy smirk back on her face. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's not a big deal. I was just bored, that's all. You're not even working. How are you supposed to keep me happy?" That comment hit me like a punch in the stomach. She was basically telling me that her cheating was my fault, that if I'd been working and providing better, she wouldn't have done it. I felt my fists clench and my blood boil. I told her she could keep lying. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I was done, that I was leaving for good this time. Her eyes flashed with hatred, then she threw a few more insults my way, saying I was weak, that I was a loser, and that I'd be nothing without her. That was the final straw. I knew I wasn't going to let her drag me down anymore. I packed my things and I left, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Walking out that door, I realized that my entire world had shifted. I had been betrayed by both my wife and my best friend. The trust I'd once had was shattered. But honestly, I felt a strange sense of liberation too. I was done playing the fool. I decided then and there that I wouldn't let her or anyone else treat me like that again. I was going to start over, rebuild myself from the ground up, and leave her in the past where she belonged. The days that followed were a blur. I moved into a small apartment just a few miles away, but it might as well have been a different world. Every corner reminded me of what I'd lost: her bitchy smirks, the lies, the betrayal. I kept replaying every moment in my head, trying to understand how I could have been so blind. How could someone I loved and trusted so much do this to me? And James, my best friend, how could he have betrayed me like that? It felt like my entire foundation had crumbled and I was left standing in the wreckage. I spent days just trying to get through the shock, the anger, and the heartbreak. I didn't want to go back to that house, not even to get belongings. Every time I thought about her, I felt this burning rage. How dare she lie and cheat, then act like she was the victim? I'd been nothing but supportive, and she had been out there fucking my best friend, laughing behind my back. It was a slap in the face I wasn't sure I'd ever recover from. But I knew I couldn't just sit there drowning in my pain. I had to do something. It was time to take control of my life again. I decided to confront James, my so-called best friend, face to face. I couldn't keep this bottled up. I needed closure, or at least I needed to hear from him why he'd done this. I reached out to him, and after some tense back and forth, we arranged to meet. When the day finally came, I was anxious but determined. James looked uncomfortable as hell when I showed up at his apartment. I didn't hold back. I told him I knew everything. How long he'd been sneaking around with Lisa, how I'd found the messages, the receipts, the whole damn setup. I asked him straight out, what the hell was he thinking? Why would he do this to me? His eyes flickered and he stammered for a second before trying to justify it. Said he was lonely, that Lisa was more fun than my boring ass, and that he'd never meant to hurt me. That was a lie. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't feel guilty. He looked like he was trying to defend himself, like he believed he deserved some sympathy. That made me angrier. I told him that I couldn't believe how selfish and pathetic he was. I said I'd always considered him my best friend, and now I saw him as nothing more than a traitor. I told him I'd cut him out of my life forever. The conversation didn't last long after that. I told him if he ever tried to contact me again, I'd make sure he regretted it. I wanted him to know that his betrayal was irreversible. I walked out of that meeting feeling a tiny bit of relief, but mostly just hollow. That sense of betrayal was tearing me apart. I had trusted these two people with everything, and they'd both stabbed me in the back. In the weeks that followed, I cut ties with Lisa and James completely. No calls, no texts, no social media. I needed space to heal, to process what had happened. But honestly, I felt like I was rebuilding a part of myself that I'd lost. I started going to therapy, trying to understand my feelings and rebuild my confidence. It wasn't easy. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, thinking about her bitchy smirk, about how she lied so easily, about how James had been my best friend and turned around and cheated on me. The thing I kept asking myself was whether I truly ever loved her, or if I just wanted to believe. Did she really love me, or was I just convenient for her? That question haunted me. I realized that maybe I had been holding onto something that wasn't real. That trust I thought we had was just an illusion, and now that it was shattered, I had to start over. I wasn't sure if I'd ever fully forgive her or myself for not seeing it sooner. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I was determined to move on, stronger than I was before, and maybe someday find someone who would actually love me for who I am. Time passed, and I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I started working out more seriously, going to the gym every day, trying to clear my head and regain some sense of control. I also threw myself into work, anything to keep my mind busy, to drown out the constant thoughts of betrayal. But no matter how much I kept busy, the pain and anger lingered underneath. I still replayed that night in my head, still felt the sting of knowing I'd been played for a fool by my wife and my best friend. Eventually, I realized I needed to confront my feelings head-on. I couldn't keep ignoring the fact that I felt hurt, betrayed, and honestly a little embarrassed. I trusted these people with everything, and they'd just thrown it all away. I started questioning everything: my judgment, my choices, my worth. Was I really so blind? Or was I just unlucky? That's when I made a decisive choice. I was done living in the past. I couldn't undo what had happened, but I could decide how to move forward. One day, I sat down and wrote a long letter to myself, trying to get all these feelings out: anger, sadness, bitterness, even some hope. I didn't send it anywhere, just needed to get it out of my head. I told myself I deserved better, that I was worth more than being someone's fool. I promised to never let anyone betray me like that again. That was the moment I decided to take back control of my life. I would heal, but I wouldn't forget. I'd learn from this mess and come out stronger. Then I started making plans. I decided to move to a new city, start fresh somewhere nobody knew my story. I'd block out the past, the betrayals, the lies. I wasn't going to let her or James define me anymore. I deserved better than that. Slowly, I began to rebuild my confidence, reconnect with old friends who supported me, and focus on what really mattered: me. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Trust is hard to rebuild after such a betrayal, but I was determined to try. Throughout this process, I also realized how much I'd overlooked. How many times she'd brushed off my concerns, dismissed my feelings, and lied without remorse. That bitchy attitude she always had, her sarcasm, her manipulations, had been a warning sign I'd ignored. I saw now how she'd been so good at hiding her true self. And James, my best friend, I never thought he'd be capable of stabbing me in the back like that. It made me question everything I believed about friendship and loyalty. But I also learned something important. I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. Betrayal hurts, but it also teaches you who you really are. I realized I had to stop blaming myself, stop feeling guilty, and start loving myself again. I decided I'd be single for a while, no distractions, no drama, just me. I needed to figure out who I was without her, without James, without all that bullshit. It was a long road, but I was finally starting to see a way forward. I don't regret what happened, not fully. Because if I hadn't gone through this, I'd never learned what real betrayal looks like, or how to stand up for myself. I'd never seen the depths of my own strength. And someday, I know I'll find someone who truly loves me, someone who doesn't cheat, lie, or betray. But for now, I'm just focusing on healing, on rebuilding myself from the inside out. That's the only way I'll ever truly move past this. Looking back, I realize that this entire experience has changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think love was about trust and loyalty, but now I know it's also about knowing your worth and not settling for less. That bitchy, manipulative side of Lisa, her lies, her constant games, taught me a hard lesson. Never ignore the red flags, and never let anyone treat you like a fool. She thought she could walk all over me, cheat, lie, and then just move on like nothing happened. But I learned that you can't just brush betrayal aside. It leaves scars, but those scars can also be proof of your strength. I've come to accept that I was never truly loved by Lisa, at least not the way I loved her. Her so-called support during my tough times was just a pretext. She was out there, secretly fucking my best friend, just waiting for the right moment to break my world apart. The worst part is, I thought she was better than that. but she proved me wrong. And James, my supposed best friend, he proved that loyalty doesn't mean a damn thing if personal convenience takes priority. I don't regret cutting them both out of my life. If anything, I'm grateful I found out when I did. Better to see the truth early than stay blind and get more broken over time. Now I see betrayal for what it really is, a mirror reflecting who people truly are underneath the masks they wear. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all made me realize I deserve someone who respects me, genuinely loves me, and values honesty over bullshit. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen to that little voice that tells me when something's wrong. And I know that someday I'll meet someone who's worth trusting, someone who won't cheat behind my back or lie to my face. This whole ordeal has been a brutal wake-up call. It's shown me my resilience, my capacity to forgive but not forget. It's also taught me that sometimes the biggest act of love you can give yourself is walking away from toxic people who try to tear you down. I don't hold any anger anymore, just a quiet determination to move forward, to rebuild what I've lost, stronger and smarter than before. In the end, I've realized that betrayal, while painful, is also a catalyst for growth. It forces you to confront your own limits, your own values, and your own self-worth. I'll carry this pain with me, but I won't let it define me. I've learned that life goes on, and so must I. Better days are ahead, and I'll never again let someone betray my trust so easily. I'll cherish the lessons, and I'll protect my heart moving forward. Because, at the end of the day, the only person who truly deserves my love and loyalty really is me.